Hi, welcome everyone to the GX Cloud public preview event. We are so excited to share GX Cloud with you and to hear what you think. My name is Molly Pettit, and I'm the Senior Community Product Manager here at Great Expectations. We have a great lineup planned for this event, so let's jump right into the agenda. To kick things off, Abe Gong, our CEO and co-founder, will give an introduction and brief history of why we created GX Cloud and what problems we're out to solve with it. Next, we'll actually see GX Cloud in action with a live demo from Rachel House and Nevin Tan, who are two of our senior developer advocates. After that, we'll hear from Abe and Stavin Mehta from Altruist. Altruist is one of our advisory customers. They have had GX Cloud for 4 months now, and Stavin is here to share his experiences using GX Cloud and what it's like in a production environment. Following Abe and Stavin, Hernan Alvarez, GX's VP of Product, will give us a glimpse of the future. And by future, I mean GX Cloud's product roadmap. Then, to wrap things up, we'll be taking questions for the rest of the hour. You can ask a question in the chat anytime. We're going to be collecting them throughout and compiling them for the Q&A. So with that, hey, Abe, welcome to the screen, and I'm going to let you start us off.
All right. Thanks, Molly. Hey, everybody. It is a pleasure to be here. My name is Abe Gong, and along with James Campbell, I'm one of the 2 original creators of the Great Expectations open source library. And now it is my pleasure to serve as the CEO of the company behind GX, Great Expectations Labs. As Molly said, my job today is to kick things off by answering the question, why? In the next hour, you're going to hear from a lot of people involved with Great Expectations. You'll get a preview of GX Cloud, you'll learn about the upcoming roadmap, and you'll hear from users who've been actively using the platform for the last several months. My job is to focus on why we're building what we're building today. So roll back in time. We started Great Expectations almost 7 years ago with a goal that sounds pretty simple. It should be possible to always know what to expect of your data. Now, the goal sounds pretty simple, but it's actually not. If you've worked with data, and I think pretty much in the room here has, you've seen broken dashboards and machine learning models that were deployed upside down. You've seen drift in weird and unpredictable ways. And you know that there are hundreds of small consequential decisions that have to be made between getting raw data and turn it into something that's actually useful for analysis. And then hundreds more decisions as you do the analysis and then share the results back to people who care about them. And then, if it's useful, you have to put the whole thing in production and make it so that it runs smoothly and consistently over time. Mistakes, or even just confusion for any of those small decisions can blow up your results. And if that happens, it degrades the hard-earned trust and confidence that you've built in your company's data systems over time. So in short, it's really hard. Before founding this company, I spent almost 10 years as a data scientist and data engineer. And still, every once in a while, I wake up remembering that time that I worked all night sitting on the floor in Chicago O'Hare Airport. Because our sales team had a customer pitch the next day, and when we needed to share data with the customer, and when I reran our analytics on that data, I couldn't get the results to line up with the preliminary results that we'd sent the customer a few weeks before. So it was late, it was dirty. I remember that night vividly. And for me, the whole experience was colored by this overwhelming feeling of dread. Like the clock was ticking, the stakes were really high. We were trying to close a multi-million-dollar contract. And I needed to be able to stand behind my analysis. And I knew that in the time I had and with the tools that I had, I wasn't going to be able to get to a place of being completely certain. I wasn't going to be able to know that I knew what to expect of my data. So experiences like that drove me to work with James to create Great Expectations. We started from a pretty basic technical insight, the seed of an idea. And we borrowed from best practices in modern software development and took the idea of automated testing and asked, what would it take to bring that back to data? Now, in the software world at large, the notion of testing is very well established. It's really the only way that we've collectively found to take complicated systems and make it so that you can add features and make changes without those systems breaking unexpectedly. So for Great Expectations, we brought that concept back And each expectation is basically just an assertion about data, what it should look like or how it should behave at a certain stage in your data pipeline. But we needed some new ideas too, because in the data world, some things are different than other kinds of software. For one thing, when you run your tests is different. In software, basically, you only need to run your tests when the code changes. Data needs that too, but in addition, data flows. And so it's important to be able to guard against upstream data changes. If somebody else makes a change in their system, you don't want that to affect your system in unpredictable ways, which means that you need to test every time new data arrives. It's more like a monitoring solution than just a pure CI solution. For another thing, why you change your tests is different. In the software world, you basically change your tests because you're changing the software. In the data world, you might change your test because you're changing the pipeline code. But in addition, you might have to change it because an upstream business process has changed, or because something has changed in the world. The data generating process is just not the same as what it was before. You might also need to change because of downstream requirements. So privacy or compliance, or maybe you have teams that rely on your data, and previously it was only used for dashboarding, but now it's being used for analytics or machine learning models and more sophisticated analytics. And when you do that, you might need to change or tighten or adjust the expectations for your data. Last but not least, who can change your tests is different. In the software world, tests are basically an internal concern. The only people who are going to touch them are the people writing and maintaining the code. But in the data world, we have all of these other stakeholders, business people who care about the results, domain experts who may have unique knowledge about how the data is supposed to work. And in the most streamlined world, those people also need to be able to collaborate with you on the shape of your data. It's one of the reasons that we built Great Expectations, not purely as a testing layer, but also as a translation layer. Meaning you can automatically compile your tests into documentation to ensure that your tests and your docs always stay in sync. It's a really nice affordance for being able to keep multiple stakeholders who speak different technical languages on the same page about how the data works. So that was the core of the idea. And as we built over the last few years, we fleshed out not so much, we've certainly fleshed out the technical thesis a lot, but we've also fleshed out core principles for who we are as an organization. And now, as we're starting down the road to building a commercial product on top of the open source library, it's a good time to refresh these. So one principle is that the core of Great Expectations is open source and always will be. We'll add new things in cloud. There'll be additional features and lots of good reasons to use that on top of open source. But the core is open source, and we're never going to change that. On top of that, we got to where we are today because we have built for data developers. And by data developers, I mean people who are hands-on keyboard building and maintaining the systems that fuel the world's information systems. People who write SQL or Python, people who probably use Git. Most of the world doesn't speak those languages or do those things. And we believe that part of the reason Great Expectations has been so successful is we've built for the people who are really at the heart of data systems. The third principle is that even though we're building for data developers first, the only way to really solve data quality problems is with good collaboration. We believe that data quality isn't just a technical problem, it's also an organizational, a collaborative problem. And so Great Expectations open source and increasingly Great Expectations cloud are built with collaboration in mind as first-class workflows. So as we build, we haven't got everything right, and I'll be the first to admit that, but we've got a lot of things right. And it's been really nice across the last several years to see those decisions play out. One of the ways that you can tell that we got it right is just because of adoption. Today, there are thousands of teams using Great Expectations and hundreds of contributors to the open source library. We have teams in all kinds of industries, like fintech, logistics, startups and scale-ups, you name it, like almost any industry you can pick. We've seen lots of really interesting use cases. Like in COVID, we had city governments that were using Great Expectations to monitor statistics around infections and things like that. So real important load-bearing use cases within organizations, sometimes shared more publicly. And we have all kinds of different data teams that are using it too. There are analytics teams whose primary responsibility is getting information to help businesses make decisions. There are also data platform teams, machine learning teams, all kinds of things. Like, data gets used in many different ways, and each team has its own unique flavor. It's been really cool to see Great Expectations being pulled in and adapted to the needs of all those different teams. If you look on PyPy today, you can go and look up downloads. We have millions of downloads, and actually we've had millions of downloads every month for a long. I'm just realizing I've never gone back and added up total downloads, but it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot, because in January was the first month where we crossed the 15 million mark, over 15 million unique downloads of Great Expectations. So it's just been really cool to see that play out. Last year, Seattle data guy did a survey, and it was a survey specifically of data engineers. And one of the questions he asked was, which data quality tools are people using? It was really cool to see that Great Expectations isn't just the most popular tool, but within a hair's breadth of being more popular than all of the other named tools put together. So I mean, we've always wanted to build something that was truly useful. It's really cool to see the tool that we've built get picked up and used that way, and to get to a point where we can confidently say that Great Expectations is the world's most popular data quality framework today. All right. In the rest of this presentation, you're going to hear more about the future, but I wanted to give you more about why we're building what we're building and how we got here. Just to close out, I wanted to say thank you. Thank you to everybody who's participated in Great Expectations over the years. That's partly people who are directly on the team, paid employees, people working at the company, but also everybody who's been a member of the community. Whether you've jumped into the awesome Slack community that we have, or if you've given feedback, positive or negative, we've learned so much over the years, and we're really appreciative of that. So I am looking forward to what we're going to share next, and other things that are coming soon. Now more than ever, I'm confident that the core of what we're building is right, and that it's just going to keep getting bigger and better. And I'm excited to go on that journey with you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Abe.
Thanks, Molly.
Now, with that context, let's go ahead and jump in and look at GX Cloud as it is today. Nevin and Rachel, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Once again, welcome to our GX Cloud public preview launch. We're really excited to give you a demo of the great features of GX Cloud and discuss how GX Cloud can provide a solution for many of today's data quality challenges. My name is Nevin Tan.
And I'm Rachel House. We're both developer advocates at GX. Now, in our past lives as data developers, we saw our fair share of data quality issues and how they impacted company operations and trust. We've had experience with the consequences of bad data, like broken downstream dashboards and suboptimal data products. We've been on the receiving end of that call from the C-suite asking why all the data is wrong. After experiencing firsthand the challenges of using and relying upon real-world data within an organization, we're really excited to showcase GX Cloud and the GX Python API as a platform to define and monitor data quality issues within an existing data ecosystem, as well as proactively surface issues. Let's imagine that Nevin and I are data developers for an online department store where users can purchase a variety of home goods. We've recently consolidated our company's data storage within Snowflake.
Rachel and I want to vet our orders data to ensure its quality, since it's a key data set that is used in a number of downstream dashboards and models that monitor our store's performance. Now, in our orders data set, each row represents an order, and each column contains a different attribute or field that is related to that order, such as the data was purchased, the data was shipped, the payment, and the review score.
To validate our orders data quality, we've started by creating a data source and data asset in GX Cloud that represent the Snowflake schema and table containing the orders data. GX Cloud itself is not connected directly to our Snowflake data via the cloud assets. Rather, we're able to use the GX agent as an intermediary between GX Cloud and our data stores to ensure that all data access and processing occurs within our organization's deployment environment. As data devs, one of the first things we normally do after connecting to a new data set is profiling that data set. We want to make sure that there's nothing clearly amiss with the data set and that we're seeing reasonable summary statistics for that data. We're able to use GX Cloud, the UI directly, just a click of a button, as you've seen, to profile and explore our orders data at a high level. We can get a broad understanding of our data set by surveying the descriptive metrics that were calculated, including column types, statistical summaries, and null percentages. The easy generation of profiling information and dataset introspection is particularly useful when we're ready to start defining expectations for our orders data. And speaking of which, let's dig into expectations. Expectations are simple, declarative, verifiable assumptions about the way you expect your data to be. Another way of thinking about them is as unit tests for your data. Expectations enable us to define and validate our orders data based on technical and business domain knowledge. Expectations are a differentiating capability of GX Cloud and are incredibly useful when it comes to creating a shared language of data quality within our data development teams, as well as across teams that include non-technical stakeholders.
As you can see in our example expectation suite, which is just a collection of expectations, expectations use plain, self-explanatory language that makes it clear what we're assessing from our data. We're able to define and read our data tests more like natural language rather than traditional code. As a bonus, our expectations can serve not only as our tests, but also as our data documentation.
GX Cloud offers a core collection of expectations that cover a variety of data quality domains, some of which we've used here for our example suite for our orders data. However, if Nevin and I found that we needed something more bespoke to fit the particulars of our business data, we could opt to define custom expectations with the GX Python API that could be then used in concert with expectation suites in our cloud workspace. Now, to define some expectations for the orders data, we'll go ahead and create a new expectation suite, which I'll call orders expectations. I'll add 2 expectations to address a few test cases that we care about when it comes to our orders data. First, I'll go ahead and add an expectation that checks the validity of the order payments. Now, based on my knowledge of the orders as a data dev, I'd expect that all orders have a non-negative payment value. So I'm going to go ahead and add an expectation that the minimum payment value column shouldn't be below 0. Pop a 0 in there. And to help inform my team of the expectation I've made and my intentions, I'll just add a note here saying that all orders should have a positive payment value. Go ahead and click save for that. And then second, I'll add an expectation to check the validity of our order ratings, which I expect to only be categorical values between 1 and 5. So we'll expect the column values to be in a set for the review score column. And I'll go ahead here and add our valid ratings from 1 to 5. And similarly to our first expectation, I'll just add a note for my colleagues that our valid ratings are 1 to 5. Go ahead and click save. And now that I've defined the expectations, I'm going to go ahead and validate these expectations on the orders data by running the expectation suite via a checkpoint. So as we see validating spinning, GX is now running queries against our orders data based on those expectations that we just defined. And it's using the query results to determine if the data meets or fails those expectations. And I can see, based on my validation results, that I have 1 passing and 1 failing expectation. Now, as we all know, data quality, it's a team effort. Maintaining high quality data is a collaborative endeavor as well as a technical endeavor. And oftentimes, the knowledge of what data should look like is spread across teams, including both technical and non-technical stakeholders. As I'm creating my expectation suite, perhaps I realize that I actually don't know what the constraints of the data should be, and that I need the expertise of other people in my organization. So at this point, I may ask my teammate Nevin to help me investigate the validation results and improve the suite until we're both happy that we have a comprehensive set of data tests in place. Let's now take a look at Nevin's screen.
Now that I'm viewing GX Cloud from my machine, I'll take a look at what Rachel has set up. She's told me about the expectation suite that she created, so let me open that up and review the expectations in it. I can see that she's created 2 expectations, and if I view the validations, I can see that one has passed and one has failed. Let's investigate why that might be and help give some insight into how we can address the failing ones. Okay, I can see here that based on the validation results, even though we've specified our review score should be between 1 and 5, we do have some unexpected rows that have an invalid rating of -1, and that comprises about 5% of our results. However, based on my own experience and knowledge within our orders software, I know that we do actually occasionally see review scores of -1 due to a known bug in our store's website. I know that we actually clean this up downstream, so I'll codify that a certain percentage of the unexpected values for this column is actually okay, and that we'd like to see our review score field meet the expectation at least 90% of the time. To do that, I'll adjust the expectations mostly parameter to 90. To do that, I'll just edit the expectation, and I'll change the mostly value from 100 to 90. And I'll add a comment to explain why I've made that change.
And if I want to see the changes that Nevin has made to the expectation back on my screen, then I can just check out the expectation suite changelog. Changes on data quality checks are often a common source of organizational confusion. And having a changelog to track the changes to our expectations over time is really valuable, as it provides an annotated history of changes to data tests that can serve as a decision log for data development within the company. So looking at this now, I can see for the review score expectation that Nevin has updated the specifications such that the reviews or the review values need to belong to the set of 1 to 5 at least 90% of the time. And I can also take a look at the notes to see that he's updated, just to give context to myself and other team members, that -1 is an okay score, there's a known bug, and we clean it up downstream. So now that we've updated that expectation, let's go ahead and revalidate our orders data. And checking out the results. Just as we anticipated, the suite passes now that we've updated that failing expectation. We've worked through a scenario in which we defined expectations, but then had to manually run our checkpoints from the GX Cloud UI in order to validate our data. In most real-world scenarios, new data is always arriving. You know, validation, it's not a one-time manual effort. So let's next explore a scenario that automates the runs of GX Cloud checkpoints and integrates data quality testing into an existing data pipeline architecture.
In our previous example, we created a data asset and expectations that validate the entire table. In reality, we ingest our orders data on a daily basis. So instead of checking all of the data, we want to make sure that each new day's data quality meets our expectations. In GX, we have the ability to create a data asset that automatically splits data into batches. You can specify the column in your data set that you would like to split on, as well as specify the interval. You can see here that we've created a data asset that uses the same database table as before, except that it's been split daily on the order purchase date column. And so instead of the 90,000 or so rows that we saw in the full table, we can see here in the latest day's data, there's about 230 rows. Now, it's great that we have the ability to check our data on a daily basis, but it would be pretty inefficient and even a little brittle to rely on someone having to log into GX Cloud and manually run this every day. The great thing about GX Cloud, though, is that it integrates seamlessly with an orchestrator, so you can plug it right into your existing pipelines. We're using Airflow as our orchestrator. And for those of you who are familiar with Airflow, Airflow uses DAG files to execute code based on a schedule that you define. As you can see here, the DAG file we use is really quite simple. We use the GX Python API to get the cloud context, and then we run the checkpoint based on the checkpoint name. Just 2 lines of code is all you need to execute the checkpoint in the DAG file. It's really as easy as that. Now, in our scenario, we ingest our orders at about 9 a.m. So we've set up Airflow to run our checkpoint daily at noon. You can see here that it's been running regularly over the past 6 days or so. So if I flip back to GX Cloud and take a look at our validations, we can see that most of the time our expectations have passed, but indeed sometimes they failed as well. Data quality means different things to different people, and defining data quality is a team effort. Furthermore, data quality is unique to an organization. Your organization's tooling and how you use it will be unique to your data and your business needs. You can see how GX Cloud can integrate into your existing data pipelines to empower you to configure it in a way that makes the most sense for you. Using GX, you have the flexibility in how you can identify, tackle, and remediate any data quality issues that might come up. That might mean using GX's abilities to send email or Slack notifications, or you might use your own infrastructure to drive the right actions based on the validation results. We really look forward to seeing what you do with it.
And with that, thank you for joining us for our GX Cloud demonstration today. We encourage you to sign up for GX Cloud, explore, and start running your own validations. And for those of you who have signed up for one of our workshops, we look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nevin and Rachel. Okay, that was awesome. Well, to everyone who's watching, just remember that if you do have any questions, you can go ahead and ask them in the chat. I see some people have been doing that already. That's great. We are collecting them for the Q&A at the end, so feel free to keep posting them when you think of them. And with that, now that we've seen the latest and greatest GX Cloud, let's hear from Altruist about their experience using GX Cloud in real life. Abe and Stavin, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Stavin, thanks for joining us. And just to refresh, Stavin is here from Altruist. They've been one of our customer advisory partners for the last several months using Great Expectations Cloud and giving lots of great feedback. So Stavin, thanks for joining us. Oh, your mic is off still.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So can you start off by telling us a little bit more about Altruist, what you guys do, who your customers are?
Yeah, sure. So Altruist is all-in-one platform for RIAs, and Altruist's mission is enhance independent financial advice, making it more affordable and accessible to everybody. So like having the financial independence to majority of the people in this country.
That's awesome. Can you use the word RIA? Can you just unpack a little bit? What's it stand for?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So RIA is the like LLC, it's a registered investment advisor, but in layman term, it's a financial advisor who make investment decision on behalf of their clients. So they can buy the stock or any other investment in mutual fund or any kind of investment they do.
Awesome.
But we are providing a platform, and it's all-in-one solution for them.
Cool. We'll get into what the platform does a little bit more when we talk about data quality. But first, can we hear a little bit more about you and your role?
Yeah. So I am working with Altruist for over 2 years, and I transitioned from engineering manager to the product manager. Currently, I'm responsible for the billing product at Altruist, and it's just one piece in this RIA platform that we have. But now in my day-to-day, mostly I'm busy with my product discoveries, roadmap planning. Either I'm grooming the user stories or talking to the UX or just reviewing the system design.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we've talked before, but your role's been an interesting one where you've been very involved in the data, but also have this kind of organizational translation role of
Yep.
helping to build roadmaps and help other people understand how to get more from the data. All right, let's talk about data quality specifically. Given who you're building for and the kinds of data that you work with, how would you describe Altruist data quality needs?
So data is like at the center piece of Altruist. It's very critical due to the highly regulated market. We deal with all the securities, and top of that, it's people's money. So we enable advisors to provide all the financial access to their clients. That means we have to meet the advisors' trust. If anything goes wrong with our platform, advisors are losing trust. That means we are affecting their business as well. So it's a very centerpiece, and with that, we need very accurate data. And just to give you a high-level overview, like we have 100 plus microservices, 30 plus external partners, where we exchange data. So when we receive data, we have to be 100% sure that the data that we use in our platform is accurate, and it goes the other side as well. Like when we share the data, we also want to be making sure that we are not passing any wrong information to our partners. So data accuracy and integrity is like the foundation to our operations.
Yeah, I mean, you're a fintech company. There's kind of no way to get by without, if the dollars are wrong, then nobody's going to trust it.
Yep.
What have you done in the past for data quality? I know that you tried some other things out before you came to Great Expectations. Can you describe those for everybody?
Yeah, sure. It was quite a journey. Yeah, we do use Airflow, and initially we just started with the data validation schemas. That means we are storing all the validation information into the table, and it was kind of a metadata where we know which column should have like what type and few other information. But definitely it was not enough. So we built the Java-based framework on top of it. We were still doing the data type validation. But along with that, we are also comparing the yesterday snapshot with the daily data, because we receive the data on a daily basis and we have to validate the daily data.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we realize that this is also not enough, and it's like very time-consuming process. So we, on top of that, we implemented another tool for data anomaly detections. It was working fine. It gave us like a good triggers, like what's wrong, but it didn't give us insight on what we are looking for. So, and the missing piece was the data integrity check. And with the great expectation, probably we achieved using the custom expectations. And that's how like we transitioned to the great expectation from there.
Got it. And we've talked a little bit about timeline, but can you just share when you started using Great Expectations and once you made the switch over, what that journey was like?
Yeah, so a great expectation wasn't just like the recent change. Even when we are doing our other tool development or in a process for using other tools, we evaluated GXOS first in 2022. It was a really good tool. We really thought that this can be our data testing tool, but due to the resource constraint, we couldn't do it. Because it was a OSS, a lot of feature that we were looking for was not available into OSS. So we had to build those capabilities. Again, like when we get the invitation for the GX Cloud beta, I was like very happy because most of the things were covered. For example, your UI, where everybody can participate, everybody can see the custom expectation that I can use into this UI part or the cloud part. And the most important was like historical validation results. So every users in my company can see the historical results.
Yeah, that's been an important learning for us over the years. Is just being able to see that history is an important part of the value that comes out of the product. Well, let's turn around. What are some of your future plans for using Great Expectations Cloud?
So we want to democratize the data testing framework across all development teams. So we have, we call it squads, but every squads has the Q engineers embedded, and they are doing a great job with the automation. And that automation is the API and UI. So we already have that process built in, but the data testing is something that we want to integrate with the development process where everybody is participating there. So testing is not only the QA job or like QA team's responsibility, whereas developer is writing their data validation. They're start thinking about data testing from their design perspective. So it's more of like the shift left culture that we want to get in and integrate into the software development process to foster the culture where data integrity and quality assurance are like the fundamental piece of it.
Yeah, that shift left, I feel like is a bit of a buzzword, but I also think that there's a real thing happening there where, this isn't just data quality, but I think we see it in the data quality world. There's a strong push to just catch things earlier, and catching things earlier often pushes you to need to collaborate across teams more than you have in the past.
Yeah, 100%.
It feels like you guys are out in front a little bit there.
I wouldn't call it like we are in front of it, but yes, we are trying there. And there's the end goal. We want to be there. Just few things to highlight here, like while using the GX and as we're talking about the shift, so GX Cloud definitely helped us moving in shift left direction, because as I mentioned, like we had different frameworks earlier and we tried different tools as well. Now with GX Cloud, we assume that we will have the unified product where everybody is using the same tool, everybody's speaking the same language. And when I'm saying everybody is like the developer, the software test engineers, or the product managers. So everybody understand the same tool, they use the same language, and we are getting better quality. So using GX Cloud, we definitely improved our reaction time to the data errors. And the one reason was like unified tool that everybody understood.
Awesome. Well, looking at the clock, we need to wrap up. But Stavan, thanks so much for joining. And thanks again for all of the input and feedback you've given as we've developed GX Cloud.
Thanks, Abe.
All right, Molly, back to you.
All right. Thank you, Abe. And thank you especially, Stavan, for joining us. Okay. So we've covered how GX Cloud came to be. We have seen what it looks like today, and we've heard about what it's like to use. So now I'm going to bring up Hernan. Hernan, what can Altruist and everyone else here look forward to seeing in GX Cloud next?
Great. Thank you very much, Molly. And thanks a lot to Stavan and Abe and Rachel and Nevin and everyone else that did a great job on the presentation beforehand. I'll tell you a little bit about myself and then where we're going. I think importantly, I joined the company about 15 months ago, and I joined for really three pretty important reasons. One was the reality of the data quality problem and how it's impacting in business's ability to take advantage of one of their most valuable assets. I saw it firsthand. I have about 30 years in the business and in large scale data enabled applications, cloud services, and most importantly, in the last 3 organizations I was in were all AI and ML product companies. And we saw time and time again that data scientists were spending way too much of their time, 70% of their time, focusing on managing the data rather than building models. So when the opportunity came up to talk to Great Expectations, it was really exciting because I was like, I'm seeing this firsthand. And the next was the team. As you saw from the folks that have presented so far today, and folks that you've interacted with in the community as a part of our developer relations and developer advocate team, it's an amazing team that's really dedicated to this space and to the community. And so that was just another great aspect for me to join the team. And the last most important thing is the community. Coming in from the outside and seeing the vibrant community, as you saw from Abe about the number of contributors and users and the downloads, it really validated the space that we're in. And being able to get as close to customers like Altruist is really important for us to be able to build a product. So leveraging what we learned from the community over the last year and customers like Altruist, they told us 4 major things that they wanted to see inside of a SaaS application. We already had Great Expectations, the open source product that was solving real problems in the context of open source. But what does that look like in a cloud SaaS application? Well, this is what it looks like and what you saw earlier from the demo. It's being able to have things like fully managed data sources and assets through the UI. Being able to leverage both an agent that can run external to your current environment or inside of the data center, as well as being able to leverage an open source Python library, being able to do self-service account creation, using social login, and then having a rich set of guides that gets you started and get you and keeps you going to make sure that you're successful with the product. And then as you heard from Staven, collaboration is key, right? To being able to have a successful data quality initiative inside of an organization that really spans the organization. So having UI and agent-based workflows that allow everyone to be able to update and manage those expectations and revalidate them, and being able to share links out and visualize that data over time, and really being able to understand the health of those data assets. And importantly, we have to be able to scale up the assets scale up the expectation covered on the assets you have today. So you saw in the demo column descriptive metrics, and that's enabled by a metric store that is going to be leveraged in the roadmap as I get into that space. Being able to pick the most popular expectations directly in the app and apply them to the data, and being able to either use a UI to edit it or use JSON, all around those critical data quality use cases that we see. And then importantly, trust and reliability. We're obviously a part of the data quality inside of your organization, data quality initiative inside your organization, and making sure that we have the necessary certifications and infrastructure operational practices to be able to give you the trust that you can rely on Great Expectations. So we focused on our SOC 2 Type 2 certification, an entire trust center that is doing continuous verification of our trust and privacy principles, and then the operational controls that give you the confidence in uptime and supportability of that product. But let's talk about what's coming up in the next few months. Learning what we learned from the great community, our beta users, and what you saw here today, we wanted to focus on a couple of key areas. One of which is confidence in your coverage. We want to make sure that it's easy for you to connect to the data that matters most to you and rapidly deploy comprehensive tests with interactive discovery tools that build confidence, as well as building now on that trust in your data. So because you can see all the tests, you can see the history, you can see the size and the shape of the data and deal with the priority and health over time, the organization is gaining trust in that data. And then, of course, we know that things do go wrong, and they will go wrong. Upstream providers will change schemas, applications will change, the data will change. You need to be able to deal with those incidents as they come up with tools and supporting tools that make it easy for the organization, the team, to be able to react to those. If you remember what Abe talked about in how data testing changes different from software testing, really important to focus there. And then being able to tie it in with the ecosystem and make it easy to integrate, make sure that we're covering the IT systems internally that makes it so it follows your IT security policies and procedures. And what this really looks like over the next few months, in confidence in your coverage, we're going to be expanding the data source support. So today we're offering Snowflake and Postgres, cloud native. We have a list of potential candidates. We'll want your feedback there. I'll come back to that later. As well as being able to add assets and add them in bulk, make it very, very easy to scale up. And then expanding that set of expectations. You saw a comprehensive set of our most popular expectations in the demo today. We're expanding that. So, and that's just gonna give you the confidence that you have the data that you want to connect to, and with the assets, with the expectation coverage you need. That's gonna build the trust and data. We're also going to be leveraging some of the metric store I talked about earlier, as well as some interesting technology that's going to allow us to be able to preload some of these schemas and make really intelligent recommendations around how you can improve the outcomes with your testing, and make sure you are testing the things that matter most to you. Looking at that data asset trend over time, and then as well scheduling validations. So there's a lot, as you saw in the demo, a lot of folks have an orchestrator or a scheduler already selected. It's sometimes they don't, and we want to make sure that people are able to work that workflow end to end, make sure they can schedule it. So we'll be delivering a scheduler as a part of that. And then coming around to incident response, having easy to configure Slack notifications with easy to configure notification severity to make sure those incidents are getting to the people that matter most, that can actually resolve that particular data asset. And then the retry logic. Today it's a fire and forget in a lot of implementations. What we want to be able to do is retest that data. It's not just try and fail once, be able to retest that. So that's coming in as a part of that. And then, as I talked about earlier, the ecosystem, making sure that we can tie into the IT systems that matter most to the customers and make it easy to deploy inside of an organization. And then finally, the last thing is cloud-to-cloud data source connection. Today, we connect to data sources either through the Python library, the agent, but not directly from the cloud. That's going to be a focus for us for those customers that can actually connect from cloud to cloud. So that'll come up in the next couple of months as well. So I just gave you a lot to talk about confidence and trust and incident response and integrated ecosystem. We want your feedback. We had a great beta rollout last year. We got lots of feedback from our customers. We're expanding that. We have 3 links here. We have Discourse at the top, which is an interactive board that you can post questions. Those questions become durable, so people can look up those answers. We have our product team on the product feedback email link. You can engage directly with our product team there. And then lastly, we have a survey that I think is going to, and all these links will be posted into the chat there. We have a survey that we're going to ask you to fill out that's going to help us learn even more about what would make Great Expectations really successful for you inside of your organization. So again, thank you very, very much for attending today. Thank you for everything that you've done as a community and helped us learn and grow. I'm just really, really, really happy, and this is great. So I'm done. Molly, can I hand it back to you?
You sure can. Okay, so first of all, it's very exciting. Thank you so much for sharing, Hernan. And as Hernan mentioned, we have a survey. I'm going to go ahead and remove you, Hernan, and instead show the survey you mentioned. So first, here it is. I believe this has been shared also in the chat. As he mentioned, we have the survey. We'd really love for y'all to fill it out. This would help us get a sense of who you are and what your problems are. So I'm just gonna pause for 1 minute here to give you a chance to fill this out, grab some water if you need, and then we're gonna dive into Q&A very shortly. Okay. We don't have much time, so I'm going to keep us chugging. But if you have a chance to finish that up and send it along, that would be really awesome and helpful for us. Okay, so I am going to bring folks back on the stage. You will recognize all the GX presenters you heard from earlier, as well as Don Hepner, Director of Engineering. So yeah, hello, welcome, Don.
Hello.
If you've already asked questions in the chat, we have a bunch of questions queued up. There's been a ton coming in. Thanks, everyone. And if you have a question but didn't ask it, now's the time. Also, I can already tell we've gotten more questions than we're going to have time for, but we are tracking them, and the rest of them we'll do our best to get answered on the blog or in discourse. Okay, so here we go. First question. What's the pricing model for GX Cloud? Renan, you want to take this one?
Absolutely, yeah. So through the public preview event, and before we launch our pricing tier in the next couple of months, the product is free to continue to use and in its full features. We will be working on our pricing model. We want people to engage with us to make sure that we're competitive and it feels like you're getting a ton of value from us. So as you saw the link with the product team, product feedback at greatexpectations.io, please engage there if you have any questions about it. And again, open source is always there and will continue to be a core part of our strategy and will always be free.
And if I can just chime in, if this is a blocker for you, like if you need to understand pricing in order to move forward, please reach out. We'd be happy to talk.
Yeah, good call.
All right, cool. Yeah, stay tuned on that. And another question that came in from Anil. Don, why don't you take this one? Where exactly is the data and where exactly are the data and validations stored?
Yeah, so the data that you bring under test, your data, doesn't leave your premises. So Great Expectations runs and reads the data within your network in order to execute the tests that you've configured through expectation suites. We store the configuration for Great Expectations, the expectation suites and the validation results in our SaaS product. It's secure, encrypted, multi-tenanted solution with row level security. But we're storing the expectation suites and the validation results. But the data is not leaving your network.
Awesome, thanks, Don. Yeah, we get that question a lot, so I think it's great we were able to address that here. Next one up, why is collaboration so important when talking about data quality? Abe, you want to take this?
Yeah, we've had a bit of a thread on this in the comments. And actually, completely answering that question is going to be a long answer because it depends basically on who is working with who, like the different configurations of data teams and their stakeholders. I'll say one of the most common patterns that we see is you have a data analytics or a data engineering team that has most but not all of the knowledge required to keep up to speed with what data quality checks should be. So like I'm thinking of an e-commerce company where they wanted data quality checks to help make sure that their marketing campaigns were being sent out properly, or a logistics company. And in both of those cases, you had people who weren't the coders writing the data pipelines who had critical knowledge about how they should be functioning. And so being able to get that knowledge into the data quality tests was a really important use case for them. Now, like I said, there are a lot of permutations on this, but the notion that knowledge is pretty diffuse and the code lives in one place, that's common to a lot of organizations that we talk to.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I'm just going to keep chugging along since we have such little time. Here we have this question. They're saying, basically, mistakes happen. Any way to reference a data asset while entering the expectations? Nevin, did you want to take this?
Short answer is yes. If you run our metrics, so you fetch the metrics using GX Cloud, once you've run that and you try to create a new expectations, the column field actually changes from a free text field to a dropdown. And so it knows the columns within your database. If you want to see it in action, you can actually sign up for our workshop. We'll actually be covering this in the workshop. So hopefully you've signed up and you can see it in action there.
All right. Yeah, good plug for the workshops. Those links to that have been posted in chat, and we'll make sure to do that again as well. And Rachel, I have one for you. Would love to know what types of reporting and alerts are available.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So within the GX Cloud UI, we provide visualizations for validation results over history out of the box. If you're looking for something a little more custom, you could also leverage the GX Python API to programmatically retrieve information about your validation results and feed it to your own reporting tool. And similarly, for alerting, you can use the GX Python API to create GX Cloud checkpoints that alert based on validation results. And our currently supported notification integrations are Slack, email, Microsoft Teams, and PagerDuty.
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel. Another question from Liz. Do you suggest using GX in addition to DBT tests in the code base? Abe.
Yeah, also a question we get quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
The short version is, for most people, we think there's a lot of value in using the tools alongside each other. For very small teams, sometimes you'll see teams that just don't want to maintain more than one thing. And if you're committed to DBT, maybe you don't want to bolt great expectations onto that yet. But the things that end up kind of pulling people into a world where they're using both, it's usually around collaboration. So Great Expectations does this really nice thing where you can compile tests into data documentation. And so if you're writing purely DBT tests, anybody who looks at those, anybody who touches them is going to have to be basically a SQL native. And so if you're working across systems and you're pulling in other people, then Great Expectations will be really helpful there. The other thing that often people run into, actually, I'd say two other things. One is Great Expectations, just because testing is the only thing we do, the library is very deep and rich. And so you end up with often having this long tail of other tests that just aren't fully supported in DBT. And then Great Expectations also creates metadata from each run that can be useful. Again, if you're a small team just getting started, maybe you don't need that yet, but it often ends up being really useful to have that history of validation results and be able to see who's changed what, when, and so on.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, we have a lot more questions, but we don't have more time. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. And thank you, everybody, for coming on and answering questions.
Really good questions, by the way. I want to take this list and figure out how we answer the, even if we can't do it in the room here, really good questions. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So I hope, I'm going to go back. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not showing the right thing on my screen. Here we go. There we go. I just wanted to share these links one more time as we wrap up. Yeah, really good questions. I'm really excited for us to, dig into those and get back to you with answers. We hope that you've been inspired by this to try out GX Cloud. You can sign up at app.greatexpectations.io. If you are interested in the workshops that Rachel mentioned, we have one coming up on the 27th and a wait list for when we announce additional dates. So if you would like to sign up for that, link in the chat. We'll also email people who attended this after the event with more information. You can see the link on the slide as well. And we've said it a bunch already, but one last time. We really, really want to hear what you think of GX Cloud. So please reach out to us anytime in our discourse or via email at product-feedback@greatexpectations.io. And with that, thank you so much to everyone for joining us. And hope you have a great day.